Hello, welcome everyone. Welcome to the first webinar of the Yunus Youth Webinar Series at the International Youth Month. Before we start, let me just introduce you quickly to Yunus Youth. We are an international organization that supports social entrepreneurs with capacity building, mentoring, networking, and access to global opportunities. Yunus Youth was founded in 2014 with the support of Nobel Peace Prize laureate Professor Muhammad Yunus to connect global social business entrepreneurs with business experts to build successful and financially sustainable solutions that address the world's most pressing problems. Yunus Youth has impacted over 4,500 youth in 65 countries with its personalized social business training. Today, we are going to discuss with some of the fellows impacted by our program in our community, the opportunities that the pandemic has brought for social entrepreneurship and to create effective and meaningful social impact, social change in our countries. For that, Yunus Youth fellows are joining us from all around the world to discuss their perspectives on this issue and to help us reflect on what we want for our future as youth and as social entrepreneurs. Before I pass it on to our moderator, Samuel, I wanted to remind our audience to use the comment section to interact with the speakers and also to ask your questions. We're going to address them as we continue the webinar. Also to use Twitter to tag us and also share your thoughts about the webinar. And the most important thing is, if you watch all the webinars from the series and you tag us on Instagram or Twitter, you're going to be eligible to receive our full social business essentials toolkit. We're going to pick one person from the audience who has watched all the webinars to receive our toolkit for free. So keep an eye for that and make sure to tag us every time you watch us. Great, so to get started, I'm going to introduce you to our moderator, Samuel. Samuel was intrigued by application of innovative digital solutions. So he started Smart Chamba, a social enterprise that strives to contribute to solving some of the hardest challenges in the world today, like food security and climate change. Samuel has extensive experience in developing and implementing digital solutions that seek to transform livelihoods of smallholder farmers. Today, he runs partnerships at Smart Chamba and consults widely for development organizations in the agricultural space in Africa. So Samuel, the floor is yours. Thank you so much for moderating the panel for us today, and to the speakers, have an amazing time.
Wow, thank you, Yasmin, and welcome everyone. I'm Samuel, and I'll be your moderator for the session today. This webinar has been organized by Yunus Youth, and the topic is turning crisis into opportunities. We will be discussing how we can use the present times as an opportunity to create epic change. Making up more than 1.8 billion people, and most of them living in developing countries, today, young people are the driving force to building a better future. In these unprecedented times, we observe young people forming a new breed of social entrepreneurs, taking on their place at the forefront, contributing to policies and decision-making, and even leading in the fight against COVID-19. They have embraced it, turning the biggest human crisis in their lifetime into opportunities to transform how we live our everyday lives. So in joining the United Nations in the annual celebration for the role of young people as essential partners in change, today we are joined by 4 incredible young people who are running social enterprises, doing some amazing work across the world. I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves and a little bit about what they do at their social enterprises. And I'll give the first chance to Samira, who's the founder of NeedLab, a not-for-profit organization solving problems related to habitat and urban resilience with work in 46 projects in 4 continents. Samira?
Thank you, Samuel, and thank you to the Yunus Youth team for having us today. Yeah, I'm Samira. I'm an architect. I was with Yunus Youth, and I'm still running Need Lab through the pandemic. And I know everyone who's listening, it's been hard time. It's been hard to be an entrepreneur, but hang in there. I'm also here to learn from the other people, how they have dealt with it, and relate to our organization and share information. We do social impact work in the direction of cities and communities, and we share skills with community members, how they can improve or build new things that can help and support their communities. So hello, and thank you for having me.
Thank you, Samira, and welcome. The next person is Kaash, filmmaker, photographer, and writer. He's also a passionate global youth leader and a social justice advocate. She started entrepreneurship at a very young age. She says at 8 years old. And she founded her social enterprise at the age of 14 years. It's called the Global Sunrise Project that creates positive impact media. Kaash, tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, everybody. I'm so thankful to be included in this incredible opportunity to speak with young leaders who are really turning crisis into opportunity. So as said, I'm Kaash. I'm the founder of the Global Sunrise Project, which is a media organization that harnesses the power of solution-oriented storytelling through films, photography, and social media campaigns to inspire people to take action on the SDGs by seeing examples of positive grassroots leadership in communities all around the world. So the people that I like to highlight in my work are very much like the Yunus Youth social entrepreneurs who take the challenges that they're faced with and turn them into opportunities for positive social change. So I'm really excited to learn from everyone today and be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome, Kaash. The next person is Bai. She's the founder of Nas Kids, a baby clothing brand that empowers local women through entrepreneurship in Malaysia. She's currently undergoing Acumen Fellowship cohort in Malaysia. Bai, welcome.
Thank you, Samuel. I'm Bai from Nas Kids, and I'm from Malaysia. And I'm quite happy to be here. I'm very excited to learn from everyone here. I know that we are like colleagues. We are like in the same Yunus Youth, but this is a very exciting moment for me to have face-to-face interaction like this.
Great. Our fourth speaker today is Sage, a social entrepreneur and founder of C Club in the Philippines. They specialize in youth development, capacity building, and public-private partnerships. Sage?
Hi, good evening or good morning, everyone. This is a great privilege for me. Thank you for having me. So I'm Saj from the Philippines. My venture primarily works with the government and the private sector in creating localized ecosystems to train younger social entrepreneurs in the youth sector. So we are officially a partner of UNICEF, funded by ING, and we are currently transitioning from civic society related projects into education sphere, given the current pandemic. So our current project now is creating small learning hubs for students to utilize with the current pandemic. We all have classes online, so we're trying to create facilities for students to use. So yeah, that's me. Thank you for having me, and I can't wait to learn from all the other speakers.
All right, thank you, Saj. So that's our team today, 4 speakers. Now just dive into our first question of discussion. So COVID-19 started affecting many livelihoods late in 2019. So I just want the speakers today to tell us a little bit of how the pandemic has affected their social enterprises, whether positively or negatively. So, Bai, you want to go first?
Yeah, thank you so much, Samuel. So COVID-19 came in like as a slap for me and everyone, I guess, because we didn't expect it will happen. We didn't expect everything gonna close down, and even not just the country lockdown, even the state, the area is locked down. And it was happening in March in here, where with the lockdowns that happening, my beneficiaries, they can't really come to work, and they are worried on how can they survive throughout the pandemic. And even at that time, we didn't know like until when this will be over. So as for me, Naskit is selling baby clothing, more into the traditional one, and we sell it for young parents to buy it for the new baby, to celebrate the new baby. So when the pandemic happened, everyone would try to save money, and nobody gonna spend for another party, and you can't even gather with so many people. So it's really affect our sales. We can't really make sales. I would say we kind of affected like 90% of it. So we lost 90% of sales in that 1 month and the next 2 months. So that it's kind of like negative impact for us, but I really try to find a way on how can I bounce back, or how can I not just help my beneficiary, and then how can I help the people around me. And that's where we pivot our business. Instead of making a baby clothing, we do a fabric clothes mask, and we do a survey around like what kind of fabric mask that you want, what kind of materials, how long you're gonna use, and how much that you're willing to pay. Because at that time, we get a lot of negative feedbacks from people, because there are no recommendation of using fabric mask at that time, and people were like, no, you cannot use that. It's not suitable, and it's not, they don't have like, basically there's no guideline on to use and to make it. So we struggle at first, but as for now, we kind of like with that kind of small things, like just a fabric mask, it could help our business to survive for the past 4 months, I would say.
Yeah, we get a chance to talk about a little bit about how you adapted to the new normal. But Kaash, you want to share your experience?
Sure. So I guess in partnership with the media that I create, my main outreach work with the Global Sunrise Project has been to go into schools, show the film that I've created, a feature-length documentary, in partnership with a workshop about civic engagement. So students usually pre-COVID would have the opportunity to go through a workshop on the basics of the SDGs, action planning. Really, it's an opportunity for them to get inspired and engaged on issues that are happening within their communities. But COVID struck, so kids were not in schools. And that has been the main challenge for us, is how are we going to do youth engagement when kids are not where we would usually find them? So I think that has been the main challenge our business has faced. We're not able to get bookings, so all of our business has kind of dissipated at the moment. We're kind of in anticipation, waiting for either schools to come back, or we're learning to adapt. So we'll talk about that more later, but that has been the greatest challenge for us at the moment.
Wow, thank you. Samira, you want to go next?
Definitely. Thank you. That's a very great and important question. I think a lot of people have pressure around this, and thank you for Kaash and Bai for being very honest and sharing actually the pain points, because that's something social entrepreneurs and other entrepreneurs try to keep it close by saying, no, everything's fine. So I would like to highlight that as well. Like Kaash said, we do conduct a lot of skill training workshops where we train communities how to work with bamboo, work with clay, work with different materials. And usually these are very manual. You want to know the body language to work with that material, and physical interaction to learn those skills. And most of those stopped, and construction architectural sites are frozen for the moment, with more clarity on how each government is dealing with regional new regulations that they're coming up with. So most of it, our regular structure that we used to function has been frozen. and altered. So most of that, how we did before, has been completely altered now. I think we learn a little bit about that ahead, but I would say we've been affected up to 80% of our operations in the way how we did things, in the way how the team interacted as well. And so yeah, I would definitely say there has been a very high effect.
Yeah, thank you, Samira. Saj, you want also to comment on that?
Right. So yeah, it's definitely a reality check, having to hear from other social entrepreneurs from around the world, right? So for my end, we were actually in the middle of scaling. So we're already done with our prototyping and all of that. We were set to scale to 10 government partners in different parts of the country for this year. And also partnered with the national government as well. So we were recognized in that way as well. The biggest impact was really the fact that our venture relies primarily on social interaction between different classes of people, and especially youth, right? So that really hampered our model. That forced our model to transition online, which is very difficult, especially if you're in a developing country with really bad internet. So what we did instead was to innovate and transition from civil society to education, right? Since that's the biggest hurdle right now with the current pandemic. Internet access is a very big problem here. So we transitioned into creating hubs where students can go to finish their schoolwork, access internet, etc. So we're doing a relatively smooth transition so far, but we have been affected a lot with our major work. Yeah.
Wow, thank you. So I think it's clear that just like many other businesses around the world, also social enterprises led by youth have been affected mostly negatively by the crisis. I also want you guys to talk a little bit about the opportunities that the pandemic has unveiled to your social enterprises. And along with that, I also want you to mention how your enterprise has adopted or taken advantage of those opportunities. I want Kaash to give her remarks on that first. Kaash?
Okay. So I would say that although our local business has not been thriving, the COVID crisis has given us an opportunity to think beyond borders almost. So everybody, I wouldn't generalize and say everybody's online, because that's not very inclusive of those who don't have access to technology currently. But a lot more people are doing things like this. We're in webinars all the time. Zoom exhaustion has become a term that people are using because they're used to being in so many webinars. It's, this access to technology has given us a global audience that, potentially we can go into classrooms virtually in countries around the world. So this is an opportunity to not only expand the work that we're doing, but become more global in our programming and our approach, and more inclusive. So I would say that's the opportunity that it's presented us.
Wow, nice. Very good to know that something is happening. Bai, you mentioned something about how you realize a new opportunity and how you are taking advantage of it. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, so we changed into making baby clothing to make a fabric mask. But the other opportunity that come up with that's really interesting to me to find out about it is before we only serve, like how there's different, not really type, like a different group of customers. Like we have those customers that earn more than other people, and we have customers that earn less. So what happened mostly before COVID, most of the customers coming from, we call it M40, or those that earn median range and above. And when we make fabric masks, this group said, no, we don't want to buy it because there's no guideline. So what happened at that time, we went out to the streets and talked to the people that really have to work during lockdown. Those working as a guard, those that working at the groceries and all that. And I found out that why not we change our customer customer to serve them, because even at that time, we never see them as our customer. We only see them as someone can work for us. So it's really kind of interesting for me to view that how can everyone actually can be a customer, depends on how much they can pay, what the kind of service or product they can buy. So that's one interesting thing that also help us to improve our business during COVID. So it's not necessarily that I have to depend on someone that can buy a high price product, but I also can depend on those that really need the product during this time.
Great, thank you. Saj, are there opportunities that have come up for your social enterprise as a result
So
of
besides, okay. So besides education, what's really happening here is that the government is having a very difficult time creating a comprehensive plan of reintegrating the new normal. So naturally, that opens up a ton of opportunities for civil society to step in. So a lot of opportunities have opened up. Aside from education, we're also looking into how to reestablish supply chains for businesses when the markets start opening up. But that's more of a long-term plan on the business sector. But really, a lot of opportunities have opened, and a lot of private and public organizations have stepped in to cover for what the government is lacking in doing.
Samira, do you want to have the last word on this?
Yeah, I'm very impressed by everybody's work here. Feels so good to be surrounded by so many people who found opportunity through this. For Need Lab, we did decide to take a sustainability angle, because there's a lot of production that's happening during COVID. Everybody's trying to help, which is much needed, because the scale at which the virus is spreading, we need more and more use and throw products. Having said that, we work extensively in sustainability. So we were like, let's wait a minute and see what happens, and then respond to that in a sustainability standpoint. So along with the team and designers, doctors, and makers, we came up with a device which is to help small businesses or a supermarket scale or older terms kind of disinfect the face mask. It can be fabric and other FFP2 or N95 masks, but they can disinfect them with the name on the mask. Let's say they tag it, so the same person gets to take it again, but we reduce the number of masks that are being discarded. I say this with extreme caution that frontline workers and doctors and all the practitioners who are interacting directly with COVID patients do have to throw away the single-use PPE, but the ones who are not. I go to the grocery store. I go to maximum, let's say, a pharmacy to pick up something. But according to the surgical masks and other products, you do have to throw them 3 hours or 4 hours based on the kind of mask you have. But imagine the scale of single-use waste that's created if everybody does that, and we don't really have the direct contact. So we did come up with this device, and we're open sourced it, which means anybody anywhere in the world can download the files, go to a makerspace, go to a carpenter, order some parts and build it themselves to make their community more sustainable and enable them also to have access to masks, because in some places it's so expensive to own masks. So if you reduce the consumption, you also give opportunity to more people to have it. So this is something that we've been working. Apart from that, we've been sharing and designing spaces which open up conversations on mental health, and also redesigning Need Lab 2.0, because it's time we do that. I think it's time we address those skeletons of financial sustainability in social entrepreneurship. It is a big problem, and we are trying to address that with the reduced noise around us and using this time to rebuild ourselves. So yeah, we've been working hard, I must say.
Wow, fantastic work. You know, I see your business is matching your level of excitement. So a lot has changed because of this pandemic. A lot of opportunities are coming up, and some researchers are even saying that the COVID-19 crisis might actually take longer to go away. So, Saj, I want you to lead us in this conversation. How is the future going to look like, social enterprises? And I would like you to answer that from the perspective of your social enterprise in the sector that you're working in. But I mean, our lives have been dramatically transformed. We can only predict, only look ahead. So, Saj, what do you see?
Okay. Thank you for that question. For the short term, the venture is definitely on hold regarding its primary functions. So we're focusing primarily on the transition. So with that in mind, on the sustainability aspect of whether or not we can survive for the next 1 or 2 years, that's definitely a yes. Luckily enough, we were able to secure a solid partnerships with the national government and also UNICEF prior to the entire thing happening. So we have a sustainability plan already in place for at least 5 years. In the midterm, that's when we start seeing the possibility of reintegrating, potentially with areas that are not as affected. In the long term, there definitely still will remain a need for my venture. It's just a matter of when, not if. So we're pretty okay. We're pretty okay actually, generally speaking. So we're doing good.
Interesting. I'd just like to remind our audience that we are taking your remarks and your questions in the YouTube chat box. So kindly interact with us, ask your questions over there. We will have some time at the end of the discussion to answer a few of those questions. Samira, what do you think the future will look like for your social enterprise?
Just to say, I think the future has great potential. I think I see a lot of kindness, which is a good direction, I think, not just for my social enterprise or in other words, like just among people and communities. That emotion of brotherhood, fraternity, and kindness is growing, which excites me, which makes me happy. There is this huge pandemic and there's a lot of loss, but I think we need to start recognizing to see the good in things. Like Sid said, even saying like, I know things are bad, but we're going to be okay. That gives confidence from him to his team. So that's a good thing. Having said that, personally, our team, we're looking at different ways we can do digital connection and how to share skills through digital portals. And for people who do not have access, how we can make it inclusive. So we're looking at libraries, we're looking at places which offer internet passes and how to collaborate with them to enable this for someone. And also to partner with organizations which have already been existing to give access to, let's say, tablets or Kindle or other reading materials, and how we can layer that. And we work in also homelessness, which is one of our main target agenda or goals for Need Lab. And that has been a tough issue to address through this, and to build houses is not possible. So we are looking at supporting a homeless community with new skills to enable them to find some support jobs in different sectors. Once the pandemic is reducing and the market opens up, we're trying to use this period to prepare them to the new job market that will come. The aim with that is employment helps somebody to become independent. And independent means you do have access to various support. You can buy your own food, you can rent a home, you can share a home. So that is a direction we are taking, and also understanding whether this is possible by collaborations. So yeah, this is how we are trying to restructure what we already had in new ways. Change is inevitable with all of us. And this time it's come in this form, and it was shocking. But I think accepting change is good. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I mean that is a very strong piece. Kasha, while you are speaking about how the future looks like, Samira also brought in the idea about digital tools and how they are transforming how we are interacting with each other. So, Kasha, how do you think digital tools fit into the future, especially of how social enterprises are working? And I know you work a lot with young people who are very used to technology. In fact, they use the digital, they live in the digital world. Yeah, what's your on that?
Absolutely, I can answer that. So something that's happening very short term for us in our approach to outreach with students has been, we've been approved by the local, like my city's district school board, the public school board, to be able to be official presenters. So that gives us the opportunity to not only go into schools hopefully once we see a recovery, we can't guarantee that right now, but in the meantime, to deliver online virtual workshops in classroom with the teacher present. And that's a good opportunity for us, just for the short term. Something I also like to think about and talk about is the fact that, a lot of social businesses are currently in the process of responding to COVID. And as media makers, with my personal social business, I find myself looking towards the future more often than I do in terms of present in terms of COVID recovery, because our mission is not necessarily geared towards responding to crisis, but to highlighting positive stories and keeping people very much in an inspired state to take action. So our social media campaigns, which used to be very general, I guess generally geared towards all the SDGs, are going to take a more specific focus on two in particular, which is climate action and peace, justice, and strong institutions, because both of those are very interconnected, and they're also really big threats to our world today. So I think that we need to focus on what our priorities are in terms of the future and what world we want to create coming out of this crisis point. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, yes, it does very well. Bai, you will be making face masks for some time because the COVID-19 crisis is going to go on and on and on. Do you think the future will be in that particular area for your organization, or are you doing internal adjustments to ensure that the main line of your enterprise goes on into the future?
Well, in the future, I don't really see my company or even my beneficiary to do fabric mask as a long-term solution, because we understand it's a short-term solution, but the longer term is on how ourselves behave in public. But so basically, we have two types of future. One is we have a short-term and the long-term of future. So the long-term future, we would like to come up with new other products. So not just a baby clothing. We are thinking of maybe we are doing a pet clothing for cats, for dogs, because people are willing to buy money and people are mostly at home right now and they really want to spend for their pets. That's one of it. So that's a future. For the short one, for the short future, in the near future, maybe in this, starting like this week onwards, we are looking into, so this is what happened. The last 2 days, I was scrolling Twitter before I sleep and I found a news. What happened in local was that there's one old homeless uncle had been fined he was digging garbage just to find used mask. So when people ask why did you find that kind of used mask, because you basically can't use it back, and he said, oh, I have to use it because I'm scared I do be fined by the local authority, because the local authority here will fine you for 1,000 ringgit, which equivalent to 250 USD if you don't wear mask in the public space. So it's really heartbreaking for me. I was like, I should do something because I can produce it. My community can do it. So what happened last 2 days, even today, we're doing a crowdfunding. I don't call it crowdfunding. I call it crowd mask. So with every 5 ringgit donated, we will create one mask and we will give back to the community. So it doesn't matter which community, as long as even until now we get what do you call it, requests from others saying that, hey, we need 50 type of masks for our community here. So what happened? They just say how many they want, adult or kids. Just give the address and we will just carry it out. So that's our new feature that we are doing, and we're looking to do it maybe like in the next 2 months and see how the COVID curve going into the next few months then.
Very nice stuff. Samira, the audience are asking, how are you able to keep your social enterprises financially sustainable, especially during this crisis period?
That's a great question. Well, we do have low overhead cost because we do partner with a lot of people. We do work on consultancy based. So when we do implement local projects, the team who works on it work as consultants. Our dream is to have a full team, always in every region, fully employed. But Need Lab's just a 2-year-old nonprofit who's doing impact work. So we weren't able to attain it before COVID. So that kind of helped us because we didn't have a very high overhead cost for the organization to function in itself. That helped. And with the ongoing expenses, we are being very cautious of what projects are being taken on, because even the hours that people put in is an expense for the organization. So we're choosing very selectively. I know there's a lot of community requests to work on their issues, but we are considering collecting all that information, keeping it with us to work with them in the future. Apart from that, we have recently hired 2 MBA community members who will be working with Need Lab, developing a more sustainable business model for us, more sustainable business models which bring in recurring income. So we're using the time that we are not implementing immediate projects to reconstruct ourselves, to pause a little bit and take a step back and say, hey, what do we do? What are the common things we do? How can we create a recurring model with what we have? And I think that's very important. As entrepreneurs, we're always scaling, and it's really good to show very high impact numbers, good to show, yeah, we are in 30 countries, we are this. I was like that, everybody were like that, because that's what grabs attention. But inside that, you do have a lot of onion layers of problems, and we are peeling them and working with them now. So it's a good time to kind of do that, is what we realized. We're also using this time to increase the applications of publicity. We're winning awards because we've never applied before, and we realized we have time, so let's do that now. So everybody's like, you're winning so many awards now, but we're like, oh, that's because we dedicated time to apply for it. It's not that we didn't before. We're doing the same work, we just didn't have time. So that's how we're dealing with, and taking care of the team, talking to the team how they are, and actually taking time to take care of ourselves, and being empathetic. And I think that helps. That really, really helps. It worked for us, and I recommend it for anyone out there.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Samira. Kaash, I have a last question for you. I know you are a passionate global youth leader. What would you like to say to other youth who have ideas to create a positive impact during this pandemic? Kaash?
I think that I would always offer, it seems cliche, but always start in your own community. I think that there's plenty of of stories that you can find by just talking to your neighbor, or, organizations that you engage with on a regular basis that are like, that really, your community kind of shapes who you are. So I think that that's always the way that your perspective will be shared when you go out into the world. So I think that that's a great place to start. Like when I first started my activism, I started locally. Like I just made photography cards and I don't donate the funds to local charities that were important to me. So I think that like the small steps, they'll all add up. And we've heard it before. It's not new, but it's told again and again for a reason. It's because it really does have value in starting in those places. You don't need to like have a big fancy camera anymore to make a film. You don't need to have like all the experience in the world, or like a master's in film. Like I just had a camera and curiosity. So that's my advice. Just be curious and speak with your communities.
Yeah, brilliant advice. Thank you, Kaasha. So yeah, just winding up in our discussion, I just want to capture closing remarks from every one of you guys. I want to start with Bai. In relevance to our topic today, turning crisis into opportunities. What are your closing remarks?
My closing remarks would be, is it me? My closing remark would be, in whatever situation we are, like we don't even know, like before we don't even know what the pandemic will look like, what the world will look like. And I would say just find any opportunity at whatever situation we are. And it will be a challenge at first. You will be stuck. Everyone will be stuck. Everyone's like stressed out. Everyone's having mental issue when nobody was like, no, mental issue is not the thing. But suddenly everyone's at home and now everyone's like so stressed out. You can't even talk to people. If you have cats or dogs, that's good. So just, and the good thing is because we are in this kind of digital world already. So you can just scroll up and find out what's happening around. How can I help? What kind of skill I can use, and yeah, all kind of thing. We might see it as a negative at first, but I mean, we might not know until when this pandemic gonna be over, when we can have all the vaccine and all that. I would say just stay positive and find whatever things you can do, and I would continue doing that. And that's what happened when we do the crowd march. Just because I was scrolling Twitter, I said, hey, let's do this. So yeah.
Great. Saj, you want to take it up?
Yeah, sure. Just to take a more positive outlook on what's going on around the world, right? Ever since we've been moving at such a very fast rate, right? And we always complain about not having enough time to learn a new hobby or start something that we haven't had time for, like apply for awards, as Samira said. This is definitely the most ideal time to not just rediscover your social businesses, but also to reflect on what you want to do moving forward, to start a new initiative, to retain what you're pursuing right now. The world is your oyster, basically. So yeah, you have all the opportunity, the time, the resources. There's so many these popping up online, such as free Harvard courses, chance, and you have it for yourself, right? So now's the best time. There's no better time to start now.
Very, very good advice. Kaasha?
I would say that what Bai and Saj have already said really it echoes what I feel. We really do have an opportunity now. The pandemic has kind of exacerbated a lot of pre-existing, problems in our societies, and we're seeing that all come to a head. There's a lot of crisis happening right now, a lot of people struggling. And I would say to look inside and see, when you see all these problems that are happening in the world, what really sparks a feeling in you? What can't you, like, you can't stand to see these injustices happening. What are those issues? Like, we have an opportunity to really take action on those issues that we don't want to see in our world anymore. And I think now's the time. Yeah, there's no better time than now to kind of connect with people who are just as passionate about those issues, and try and dream something beautiful for the future, I would say.
Yeah, brilliant piece, Kaasha. Samira, your closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you. I think what everybody shared is absolutely what I have on my mind as well. Adding to that, if you're someone living in a collective family and have been lucky enough to quarantine with your people, I would like to suggest help out at home. I've been seeing a lot of statistics that a lot of burden-carrying members of the family have been overloaded with work, not just by taking work remote, but also with having less support. Probably they had support staff who are unable to help, and suddenly people find themselves overloading and overworking. And if anyone of you out there watching has the power to take off load from someone who has a lot more, do that. And also watch just your time throughout the day. I found myself overworking a lot of times in these 5 months, and I realized, okay, I need to make a change, because it's easier to, if you're not able to go to a park, if you're not able to go for that run that you wanted, it's easier to just drown yourself into work again and be distracted with something, because we have the nature of keeping ourselves occupied. So I would say, don't overwork. It's not worth it. Nothing is going anywhere. I think the 10 people who care the most about you in your life need you. And I think that's what I've learned. It's just my personal sharing. So take care of yourself would be my
Yeah, thank you, Samira. Kaasha, did you raise your hand? No. Okay. All right. So I think we had a very exciting panel of speakers. Thank you very much for being honest, sharing out your hearts. I appreciate everyone of you for your time. Also would like to appreciate a lot Y&Y, Yunus Youth, especially for creating this panel of experts, young experts. And I think we will be leading the next, revolution. I think at this point, Samira, are you raising your hand? No. Oh yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Yeah. So I think I'd like at this point to take it back to the Y&Y team, and yeah, thank you everyone for making time for us today. Thank you for very, very, very insightful conversations. For our audience, we've been asking so many questions. We hope we've been able to answer them. And yeah, we wish all of you guys a pleasant stay and successful social enterprises.
Awesome. Yes. Thank you, Samuel. Thank you for moderating, doing such a great job in this panel. Thank you to all the speakers. You guys are amazing, always impressive, and it's always inspiring to meet with you and to learn from you. Let's just give a big virtual clap to all of our speakers. Thank you guys so much for joining us. And thank you to all the audience who watched us from all over the world for joining us at the Y&Y Webinar Series today. Just as a reminder, this is the first webinar of the webinar series we're doing for the International Youth Month. So join us again on Sunday, August 9th at the same time. We are going to be here again talking a little bit more about the pandemic and the work of youth and what we can build for the future to make the future more inclusive and more sustainable as well. Let us know what you thought about this webinar using the word cloud link that we sent on the chat. We would love to hear your thoughts. You can choose up to 3 words to describe today's webinar. And I just wanted to remind you all as well that this video will be available on our YouTube channel later. So if you had a friend who you think should listen to what our speakers were saying, who wants to work in social entrepreneurship, who wants to create an idea to tackle the effects of COVID-19, send them this video, let us know what you thought as well, and join us again on August 9th. Also, if you're part of an organization that seeks to promote diversity, social entrepreneurship, and youth leadership, and you like to partner with Yunus Youth, send us an email. I'm going to copy paste my email in the chat as well, so you guys will have access to it. Please don't hesitate to get in touch with us, and we can discuss possibilities of collaborating. And again, to our speakers, thank you so much for sharing your wonderful insights and experiences today. To the moderator, Samuel, thank you so much for doing such a great job facilitating the discussion. And to the Y&Y team in the backstage, thank you so much for your continuous work to support young social entrepreneurs and to create a better world.